It is a little challenging for content writers to embrace it because there is a fear. I look at it as a way to enhance the work that we're doing.
Welcome to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show, and I'm your host, Richard Wray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Join me today where we dig deep with our guest and get you the best concepts and strategies. Today's special guest is Linda Fanaras. Linda is an award-winning executive marketer with a long list of achievements, including the SBA Women-Owned Business of the Year, Outstanding Woman in Business Award, and NH's Top 200 Most Influential Business Leaders. Today, we're talking about putting AI to work for marketers. Linda, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Linda, really great to have you here. And as I ask all my guests, Linda, where in the world are you?
So I am in Boston. I spend the majority of my time in Boston, and from time to time, I'm in New Hampshire.
Oh, very nice. I've spent a fair bit of time in Boston myself. It's a great place. Some good beers there. Very good
great
beers.
beers. It's a great city. Absolutely.
Isn't it? A little cold for me.
It is cold, and we're expecting quite a bit of snow. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Not for me anymore. Anyway, let's talk about that. So, Linda, during the intro, I mentioned that you have an incredible list of achievements, and I only scratched the surface. And I'd love you to just say a few more of the things that maybe I missed out that you think are important.
Sure. Well, I own a marketing firm, Millennium Agency. We've been in business for 25 years. We work with a lot of B2B companies, and what we like to do is work with our clients to help them grow. Achievements, I don't like to talk too much about my achievements over the years. We've won plenty of creative awards, web awards, business awards throughout the years. We're part of the 4As, which is the National Ad Agency Association. I do like to talk about this because what that does is I'm on a board of directors that gives me some additional insight into some of the latest things around marketing and marketing strategies to help businesses grow.
That's an amazing list to say. You've said it far better than I ever could.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So let's get into this. AI for marketers, or putting AI to work for marketers. Tell me, how are you going about this? How are you using the tools, and what tools are you using?
Yes. So we do use the tools. There are more and more tools coming out every single day of the week, as we all know. So whether you need somebody to help you with graphics around creative, if you need some help with social media posts, and internally, what I will say is we use it a lot. We do use it for content writing, and we use it as a foundation for potential content writing. So, for example, instead of it actually writing all of our content, it helps to build the foundation to where we might head to. And there's some key strategies behind how we tackle that. But that, I would say, is probably the most effective way that we have found to use it. So it could be for social posts, could be for some blogs, so on and so forth.
And do you use the tools off the shelf, or are you doing some level of customization?
The current ones that we're using right now are off the shelves. We actually are in the process of doing some customization for a social media tool that's quite a bit customized for the client. So what we'd be looking at doing there is it's just a tool that integrates AI in with some creative and also with content writing and blog, not blog writing, but content writing for social media posting. So works out great. I mean, we're kind of moving along in that development process now.
Cool. And you mentioned as well, you use it for the foundation of creating content.
Yeah.
So it sounds very much like you're still relying on that human spark, that human, quality to make sure that is a real kind of attractiveness to everything that's written. Tell us a bit more about this.
Sure. Well, I think from an AI perspective, we look at it as, it's as good as what you put into it, right? So if you are, we look at it from the perspective of depending on how detailed you need your information, the way that you prompt AI is key. And the way that you tie in certain things like content style guides, or maybe how you write, or what your expectations are. And some of that prompting strategy does take time and effort. It's not like you can just say, hey, you can do this, but it's not going to be what you want. Hey, write me a blog on XYZ, or write me a social media post on ABC. Yes, you'll get that back, but will it be exactly what you're looking for? No, because you haven't fed it enough information for it to give you enough accurate data back. So we like to use it, we like to dig a little deeper and make sure that what we're kind of putting in does provide the output that we're looking for.
Tell me about that moment when you first saw AI and thought, this is maybe something I can use to enhance my business.
Yeah, no, I think the first time I did use it, I can't remember if I asked it to write a letter or some other short form, and I'm thinking, wow, wow, I could have said that better myself. And what's great is, when an individual sits down to write something, it could take them a long time.
Hmm.
They like to think about it. They want to rethink it. It didn't quite sound right or say the right thing. So I think what AI does is, to my point, is it provides that foundation to base your point off of. So it gives you sort of that initial spark to move forward from that. So the first time I used it, I was impressed. I thought it was great. So that's my opinion. I'm not sure everybody feels that way, but that's how I feel.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So tell me, within the organizations you work with or work for or you run, what's the reaction been to AI coming into the industry? Because a lot of people, they've had a little bit of a freak out. Oh, it's going to
Yeah.
take my job is a phrase I hear on a regular basis, which is largely untrue in most cases, I find. But what's been the sort of reactions, and who
Yeah.
have you seen adopting it, and who have you seen kind of, trying to push it away as hard as they can?
Yeah, I think, it is a little challenging for content writers to embrace it because there is a fear. I mean, I don't look at it from that perspective at all. I look at it as a way to enhance the work that we're doing and enhance the volume of work that we can do internally. So we can't get rid of a human. It's just not possible. Maybe someday, I'm not sure in my lifetime, but the case is we do use that. So initially there is some pushback, but over time, as this continues to move along, which it will, they're starting to embrace it more and more. I think they just have to flush out some of the legalities around it, which we'll see as time goes on. And then from there, we'll see sort of some way that it gets monetized in a more effective way.
So you mentioned legalities there. Some people have been very concerned about potentially any output from ChatGPT
Yeah.
or from Google Gemini may have copyrighted content in there. And there
Hmm.
is various court cases going on at the moment about that.
Hmm.
ChatGPT, OpenAI have said that they will actually back people if they run into challenges like that legally. So
Hmm.
what's your take on that? What's your experience and just your general perception of, is it a real challenge or is it just that it's a bit of fear mongering at this point?
I guess it might, I am not a lawyer by any means,
Mhm.
but I will say that I think, if you get a lot of people just generally asking similar prompts into AI, they'll be getting similar responses. So, to my earlier point, where you can prompt that in a more detailed, effective way that is customized for either your client or your business, it can also help generate the type of content that really aligns with who you are as a company and as a brand. And I think if you take that the next step and say, okay, this is not meant to be a verbatim copy. It's meant to, again, be a foundation to how we would use it in the future. It can absolutely be a positive tool. So I think the key here is, from my perspective, it's not just taking what's in there and using it. It's like I said, you're using it as a basis to develop the ideal content that you're looking for.
Understood. You mentioned the prompt, which is, as we all know, it's kind of the most important part when you are using AI in the first place, telling it what you want the AI system to do.
Mm-hmm.
When it came to developing the prompts, did you bring in an external resource to teach you how to do it? Did you do it by trial and error or some combination of these?
It's been through trial and error primarily is how we've done it. And I think the more, as I said earlier, the more you can feed in is the more that you'll get out more accurately. But we have been doing most of our prompting internally and adjusting that as needed.
So can you give me some examples of the sort of campaigns and the sort of clients you've used it with and how much time that has saved you?
That's a really good question. I feel like we are still, I'm not sure I could answer that properly right now because I feel like we're still in the process of using it and determining like the most effective way to use it. Um, I can't exactly say how much time. I would say it has saved us time. I wouldn't say a substantial amount of time because we do still write content ourselves. We don't solely rely on it, but in certain instances we will. So I'm not sure I could answer that accurately.
No, I understand because it is still very early days
It
into
is
the effective use of AI,
right.
which leads me to the next question though. I've talked to so many people about this. Some people are just using AI and getting on with it and hoping for the best. What do you see the dangers of AI being?
Well, I definitely think the copyright issues will be the dangers of AI. So I think in order to, I think if there's ways that AI can be customized based on the individual style, like almost mimicking, and I had to use this like a robot of the person. So for example, if I'm writing an article and it really knows me and it knows how I write and it knows, the type of research I may do to get my data, then, and it knows the client I'm writing about and who they are, well, that starts to become super, super customized. So to duplicate something like that would be very, very challenging. So to me, the idea would be to be able to get AI to a point where you can kind of get deep with it and really figure out, like, how can I get to the nitty gritty of what I'm looking for in a very customized way? And then I think some of those issues would go away. I'm assuming maybe over time, some of the copywriting tracking and will be built into these AI platforms, so it will become a little more safe, which I also think would be a valuable opportunity.
If we get to the point where AI is genuinely generating content and you as the leader of an organization are just essentially ticking the box and saying, yes, it's good, let it go live, do you think the public will be able to detect, even subconsciously, that it's AI that has written that content?
I think the style of a lot of the AI content that generically gets generated is very similar in nature. There's a very similar style to it. It sounds a certain way. It pulls in certain words. So I do think it could be identified by the average person. Probably not. By the average, no. But if you're like, maybe let's say you're a marketer and you're using AI and you're just using it in a generic way, can another marketer identify, oh, that's AI driven? Yes. So I think that's the importance of making sure that whatever you're putting in is put in a very customized way to get unique data back.
There was the recent story of Sports Illustrated leaking that some of their stories had been written using AI. And of course, they're not around anymore. And that may be one of the reasons why they aren't around anymore. Reputational damage. What are your thoughts on the public reaction to them ever finding out that content is written using AI?
What do I think about the reaction of it?
What do you think the public's reaction would be? And what do you think, the reality of the knock-on effect would be?
I mean, I think like in the instance of, sport, unfortunately, when you come out with new technology like this and when you're releasing something from an emerging market, there's always a risk involved. Will that take off? It's like cryptocurrency. It's like the cannabis industry. Now it's AI. So there's always sort of that front end, let's try to stop it and can it and get rid of it and sue it and all this until all that shuffles out. So I think it's just part of the process of an emerging brand or opportunity or trend or whatever or technology or whatever the case may be. But I just think it's the way it is. I mean, it's the way to kind of push through some of the challenges to uncover what needs to get addressed in a bigger way.
Have you run into any clients who have got maybe a little bit carried away with the hype of AI and have gone, oh, we don't need you anymore. We can just use AI to write all of our copy?
We haven't come across that yet, believe it or not. We have not.
Oh, that's great news.
I know, which is surprising. But because I think back to what I had, back to earlier, I think you get a lot of the same content. So unless you're using it in a way that is really elevated, you will realize that you do sound like maybe your competitor. And that's not what you want. You do need, as a brand, you have to remember companies have their own brand and they have their own voice and they have their own personality. And you have to be able to duplicate that in an AI environment effectively. Otherwise, you've just lost everything that you've built up over the years. And I think that's one of the risks that anybody that uses AI should take into consideration is, what is my brand? What's my brand voice? What's my tone? What's my personality? And is AI really aligning up with that? And if it's not, if you can't get it to align, then you don't want to make that switch.
Could this be then used in reverse? If you've got a big catalog of your style of work that has been used to train an AI system, could you actually use the AI to say, hey, you're not actually on message at the moment, you're not on brand?
You could. You could. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to use that in a more effective way. Or you could utilize, like I said, a style guide and say, here's my style guide. This is the way I write. This is our tone. This is our personality. I need you to write XYZ on this and use these links, whatever the case may be. But the more data you can feed in, obviously, like I said, the more information that you get out in the best way possible. There's so many different ways to write it. I use AI. A lot of people use, especially marketers, use it for writing blogs and social media posts and email copy and even website copy or captions or coming up with headlines or even names of companies or things like that. There's so many opportunities to use that in the most effective way.
Have you come across any examples of people using AI where you've gone, oh, that isn't so good?
Yes. Because to your question,
you don't have to name names.
No, I will not. But it is obvious, and I come across it a lot when I see content, maybe because I'm familiar with AI, whether it has been generated by AI. And I think there'll be, there are tools there to determine if it has been generated. So those are the kinds of things that's going to combat the, kind of handle some of these issues where people are utilizing the same content. And I think what this is all pushing us to do is kind of get to the next level of AI. How can we make sure we're not plagiarizing copy? How do we make sure that we're using the right voice and tone? How do we make sure we're not using all the, the same verbiage? And how can we differentiate it for our company and not make it sound like everybody else's? So I think those are some of the pushing limits that you'll see happening next as part of that process.
So with that next level of AI, do you see it enabling yourself to do more work, or is it just it's going to take you less time, or is it just going to be a refinement of what you're doing at the moment?
I think I would like to see it as a tool. I mean, I always feel like if we have tools that give us less work, we find more work to do. So there's always a right.
It's not like you suddenly take an extra vacation or something like that.
No, it doesn't work that way. I mean, things have changed over the last 20 years on how we conduct business. We were all using Rolodexes, and now what's a Rolodex? So it's just kind of funny how things continuously change. So staying on top of it and embracing it is an important factor. I mean, I would envision it as a tool to save time and also maybe, improve the level of efficiency within the organization.
We talked earlier on about that first time you used AI and you thought it could help your business in some way or form, and you had that surprise moment.
Mm-hmm.
As you've continued to use it, have there been any moments where AI has surprised you with how good the results have been?
Yeah, no, it is. The results can be really, really good. And I always feel like it's dependent on what is put into it. And it can be impressive. I mean, sometimes the adjectives are a little over the top and things like that, especially in content writing. And there's too many of them. And some of that needs to be tightened up a little bit. But for the most part, I think, it does provide a great framework for individuals, especially marketers who want to use it as a tool to maybe even if they have a writer's block, and they don't really know like where to go with this next paragraph. I mean, it could provide some insight and data on that as well. So there's just different ways to use it. It doesn't have to write your entire blog, but it could maybe segue you in from one paragraph to a next to help you build out a bigger content piece that's effective and powerful.
So for people who want to get into marketing or any style of professional writing, could AI be used as a tool to help them learn how to do it in the best way possible?
It could be, actually. You mean like to how to write a blog or to how to get into the space, or either way?
All of the above, really.
Yeah.
I've always seen it as a trusted guide that can help you out, although you have to check that it's not hallucinating in many cases.
Right.
I don't know if you've run into any AI hallucinations, but I certainly have.
Here and there.
There's some. I had a whole movie and book imagined by some AI I was working with one time.
I know. It's amazing what can happen.
Amazing. But back to the question, though, I mean, do you see it as potentially an educational tool? Say if somebody was going to come along and have a job interview with you, could they potentially use AI to practice in advance and learn the right sort of phrases and use the language that has been produced by you and your company?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could check out some of the materials, it could read some blogs and maybe pull some core competencies within the company. And and, even come up with questions that might be a great thing to ask during that process, during the interview process. So absolutely, it can be used in a tool in that way for sure. Absolutely.
And have you ever used it in a competitive scenario and maybe analyze one of your competitors?
We do not use AI for that. We have other resources and tools that we use for market research if we're looking at competitor data that's deeper and more current. So we do not technically use it for research.
Understood. Understood. Would you see a time when you could?
I think, I mean, as far as some of the tools that we're using, I'm assuming there's some powerful research tools out, AI generated research tools out there that really look at secondary data in a deep way and probably can analyze it and distill it down and give you a summary. Those types of tools would be a great resource for any marketer wants to look at competitor data, as long as the data is current and it's pulling more recent secondary information. So I think in that type of instance, I'd say there's probably tools out there I could really focus in on, particularly uncovering competitor data and distilling it down into an executive summary that really does pull out the key points within the competitive marketplace.
That makes complete sense. So beyond work, are you using AI at all, or do you see anybody using AI in a smart way that's impressed you?
I think there's so much out there in terms of AI. I mean, there's a lot of image work that's being done. There's a lot of AI that's starting to be used in the medical industry, in the legal industry. I just feel like it depends on the industry and then how AI can benefit. So in all sincerity, I think it can be used in almost any instance. It's like, what do you need it to do? Do you need it to teach surgeons how to perform surgery with virtual glasses and pretending they're in a real room and with so I think there's all kinds of scenarios that AI could be used in, and the virtual reality technology that could really start to push the limits on where we are today and where we're headed.
And what would you like AI to be doing in the future?
Curing cancer, helping people live longer and healthier.
So we're getting away from doing the silly images.
We're getting away from marketing for a minute, but
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, actually using it for things that would be absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, things that would help people.
That makes so much sense. So tell me, if there was one piece of advice that you would want people to take away from our conversation today, what would it be?
I think the key thing would be to use AI as an opportunity to input valuable information that you think it can help, that will give it the information it needs to give you back what you want back. So it's almost like you have to use it, you have to educate it in a sense. So make sure you educate it to the level in which you need in order to get back something that's fantastic. So that would be my advice. Prompting is key.
Prompting is key. Learning how to prompt, maybe reading, maybe going on a course.
Exactly. Like that. Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. And there are plenty of resources out there, free resources, but also some great paid ones too.
Yep. Absolutely.
So Linda, tell me, where can people find you and what exciting projects have you got at the moment that they should be looking at?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Linda Fanaras. It's F as in Frank, Anaras, all A's. It's Millennium Agency, and we're in Boston and New Hampshire. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn, which is Linda Fanaras, or just email me at lfanaras@mill.agency.
Fantastic. And any exciting projects?
Yes. So we just wrapped up a big transportation statewide website for individuals who need access to transportation. It was a great statewide project, so we're super excited about that. And we are just starting up on a software. They're a software company, and we're doing a full rebrand, full messaging, and we go through a process called white space, identifying white space in the market. So that's a pretty exciting project too. So those are the two that I have in mind.
That sounds really interesting. And I'd love to maybe get you back in the future to learn a bit more about that.
Absolutely. Happy to share the book details with you too. Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be fantastic. Well, Linda, thank you for your time today. Sounds like you're doing some really smart things around AI and also being very sensible in your approach of not going over the top and making sure that there's always that human element.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage show. Just before you go, if you'd like this episode, we would be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at aiadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Wray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI advantage today.